Lives in alignment with their highest and best good. Emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other in a world which individually and collectively will call to a higher state of consciousness and action. So you'll find the theme throughout our global vision statement of a call to action, a call to be engaged with one another, and a call to create a community in a world that works for everyone right where they are. And creating a world that works for everyone right where they are, we're not required to give up anything. We actually have the opportunity to expand and to embrace the vastness and to embrace the diversity that is created and represented in this world that works for everyone. It's an expansion that takes us to a higher place of consciousness. And then from our science of mind principles and our core concepts, we see this statement from our Declaration of Principles. We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. So you'll see an underlying theme here that it is all about consciousness. And consciousness is just our awareness of the indwelling presence of spirit. It is that higher elevation where we move from the use of what Dr. Michael Beckwith calls the carnal mind into recognizing that we are divine at all times. And tying this in with the theme for my installation yesterday, which was This Far by Faith, I want to highlight this passage from This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. And what we've done in the past, or at least what I've done, is offered you Ernest Holmes quotes, but not unpacked. And for those of us who have not done classwork, or who are not familiar with the writings of Ernest Holmes, sometimes his writings can get real heady, very intellectual. And so I want to break this down a little bit for you this morning. He begins this passage from This Thing Called You by saying, "You had not been left alone to fight a losing battle or contend against persons of evil." And so what this means in everyday language is, even though we may feel that we're experiencing that dark night of the soul, that darkest hour that could ever have come upon us, when it feels like everything and everyone has completely disappeared and abandoned us, we are never alone. Gospel artist Vicki Winans, no, not Vicki, Cece Winans. The Winans family, I get them confused. Those of you who know the Winans, everybody is a singer. Cece has written a song that says, "Never alone." No matter where we find ourselves, no matter how far we go, no matter what situations or experiences we wind up in, we're never alone. And we're never alone because we are one with Spirit. We are created out of the essence of Spirit. So therefore, we can never be alone. It may feel that God has left us, or it may feel that God has abandoned us, and that is not the case. I see we are having a problem here with our internet connection. So we'll continue to move on. Next, Dr. Holmes says, "You have been left alone to discover your real nature." You've been left alone to discover your real nature. Sorry, my computer is doing things. Okay. Yeah. That is, as an individual, you may consciously unite with the law of life in the presence of God. Read this again without the interruptions. You have been left alone to discover your real nature, that as an individual you may consciously unite with the law of life and the presence of God. And so again, breaking this down a little bit more into everyday language, everywhere along this journey of self-discovery, and this is what our life experience is about. It's about discovering our authentic and true self. Everywhere along this path in this journey of self-discovery, we're not alone. Again, because we are the essence of spirit. We are the essence of this eternal creative energy that is expressing itself through us. We're never separated from source. And then Ernest writes, just keep knocking at the doorway of your consciousness until every no becomes a yes. Every negation an affirmation, and every fear a faith. You cannot fail if you remain steadfast. And there's an online organization, some of you may be familiar with it. It's called, I think the umbrella is called the Greater Good. And then within the framework of this greater good, there are various charities and social service agencies that are supported by a click. You just click on the icon that says, I'm gifting to this. And of course, they generate revenue from their advertisers. But one is the hunger site. This was the first one that I became familiar with. There's the hunger site. There's a site for breast cancer, there's a site for veterans, there's a site for animals, and within the site for animals, there's one where the viewer can click on to give kibbles to dogs and to cats. And the one thing I like about that site is that there's a question that they ask, and they give you little prompts for the answers. And it's a mind expander for me because I don't know all of the things. So I'll take a guess, and sometimes the guesses are right, and sometimes the guesses are wrong. But what I like about this site is a reminder there is no right or wrong, you win. And the winning is, regardless of whether the answer to the question is correct or incorrect, the donation of the kibbles to feed dogs and to cats will take place. And so I like that because I equate that to living this experience of life. When we live in close contact with the indwelling presence, when we know the value of who we are, when we know the worth of who we are, then there is no right or wrong. Yes, we may make mistakes, or we may misstep along the way, and yet, the God that I know, the God that loves and adores me, and the same God that loves and adores each and every one of us, does not see right or wrong. All it sees is its beloved. And through our consciousness, we discover what is the right path. And the right path is the one that basically says and practices, do no harm. Do no harm. And then Ernest goes on to say, finally, the fetters of bondage, those iron manacles that are technically around the ankles of prisoners, the fetters of bondage will drop from you. And so we've expanded in consciousness and we recognize that nothing and no one and no thing can take away our true nature and our true essence. So therefore, there is no bondage in nature. You will walk out of your self-imposed prison only to discover that this door was never really locked and the windows were never actually barred. You were merely bound by the chains of unbelief. And this is from this thing called you. And so, some practical application to this whole idea of freeing your mind and the rest will follow. And this is going to be a focus on using spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer. When we're new to science of mind, especially those of us who may have been new in the foundations class, I remember this back to foundations. When we're new into this and we're discovering how to manifest, the easy manifestation of parking spots. Anybody remember manifesting parking spots when you're just starting out? It's like, oh yeah, this is cool. I don't see anything here. Just drive around the block and come back and the parking spot is there. And so this is where we start. Now, some of us remain at parking spot manifestation. The use of affirmative prayer and treatment has always been for the purpose of freeing us from our own limited ideas and beliefs. Let us use this incredible tool to free our minds and to lead us into that freedom that is our birthright. Let treatment be the go-to rather than the last thing. You know, after everything else, we treat. Let's treat first, and then watch how everything else unfolds in divine, perfect order. That is the way to break those chains of unbelief. And our second illustration is that treatment provides a pause and remembering in our consciousness. The affirmative reading this morning that Reverend Cindy brought to us is a reminder that we have this spiritual toolkit. And in this toolkit, there's that support for remembering consciousness. And I love this expression from Dr. Edward Villon. He says, I make conscious use of the principle for a definite purpose, but I must first ground myself. I may first ground myself in the action and the deeper inner perception and conviction of the spiritual truth about myself and about any condition to be revealed in the treatment. And one of the things that we learn in our classes as we advance through the various classes that we offer through our teachings is that just had an idea flow in. I'm remembering the book by Jack Addington. Some of you may know Jack Addington. He wrote this fabulous book called It All Begins in Mind. And I don't know if it's still in print or not, but it all begins in mind. And this is what dropped into my spirit to say about spirituality treatment. It all begins in mind. The spiritual truth about myself, it begins in my own mind, in my own awareness. And this is the basis for any condition of treatment. We always begin with ourself. It's arguing and convincing ourselves that I am one with this eternal presence, and that everything that I need to know is revealed at the time that I need to know it. And then I like this quote from Patricia Diane Costa-Robles in Raising Consciousness, the Shift from Separation to Oneness. Trying to change physical conditions without changing my consciousness is like trying to change the reflection in a mirror without changing the object causing the reflection. And then our third illustration is pray with a clear purpose. Prayer is for our awareness to shift and to become what is actually true. And we use it so that we shift what is happening in our own minds. The shift, again, is all in our own minds. Prayer is for us to free ourselves from wrong thinking and wrong ideas. And Dr. Holmes offers this in the Science of Mind textbook. The highest realization we can have is a recognition of the omnipresence of spirit. This will set greater possibilities in motion that will automatically provide a better concept of life. And so embedded in all of this leads us to our conclusion and our call to action. When we pray, not for an outcome that we're trying to control into being, we pray for the purpose of allowing the divine wisdom within us to rise up into our consciousness and to guide our steps so that we more fully recognize our purpose as emanations of the One. So we're always praying for the divine revolution that says, as the song from my youth says, lead me, guide me along the way. For if you lead me, I will not stray. And so it's that prayer of faith, if you will, that internal urging and nurging that wells up within us that says, not my will, but thy will. And this is where we release the control of trying to create something into being and allow that is within us to flow up. This is the practice of freeing the mind and the confident assurance that the rest of the beingness will follow. And as always, I include reflective questions for journaling or meditation based on what we talked about today. And I've asked our tech team to drop these into the chat. And so our reflective questions for this week are share of a time that you have prayed for a specific outcome and your prayer was answered, but not in an unexpected way. And then question number 2, how can I use prayer treatment in order to cultivate a deeper awareness of my divine nature? How can I use prayer treatment to cultivate a deeper awareness of my divine nature? How can surrendering to a greater wisdom within me serve in my life right now? This is question number 3. How can surrendering to a greater wisdom within serve me in my life right now? And then our affirmation for the week, I allow Spirit to fill me to overflowing. I allow Spirit to fill me to overflowing, revealing divine truth. I allow Spirit to fill me to overflowing, to reveal divine truth. And now let us pray together. Recognizing the one intelligence and the one force of love that is present at all times and in all places and is present right here and right now through us. I know and affirm that the greatest power of the universe is that which is within me and is that which is with each one that is here. And that each one is called to choose love, to choose this God of our understanding, to choose the absolute, knowing that it is continually revealing itself in all ways. With every inhalation and every exhalation, I am filled to overflowing with this divine essence. I am so grateful for the one that through me and through all makes it possible in every activity to express the goodness and the graciousness of God, of Spirit, as loving action in my life and in the life of everyone. Love in action in all ways and in all times. And so as I speak this word of blessing for the spiritual community known as the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, I also embrace and include all Centers for Spiritual Living, the umbrella of the Centers for Spiritual Living International Organization. And I embrace and welcome into our consciousness and welcome into our oneness with Spirit, a recognition and an acknowledgement of all faith traditions, all faith paths, recognizing that there are many roads, and sometimes those roads are parallel with each other, sometimes they intersect with each other, and sometimes they take a wide diversion, and yet all roads, all paths, leads back to the one source of all that there is. And so it is in this place that we honor and we respect and we acknowledge all paths. I speak a word of blessing for those who have a prayer request that is held within the recesses of their heart or has been released by word or in writing to a confidant or message that has been left in a prayer box, knowing that the universe always says yes. As soon as the prayer idea or the idea for the request comes into mind, the universe is already working on it. We have known and have experienced it as we speak, the prayer is being answered. When the prayer is complete, the answer is already there. This is how the law works. This is how the universe works. And how good it is to know that this is how it works in my life and in the life of every single individual. Honoring those prayer requests for divine right livelihood. Honoring those prayer requests for right healing, for healing of the physical body, healing of the mental body, healing of the spiritual body, healing of the body of our affairs. I know that the Spirit always says yes. And for all that there is in this marvelous life, I am eternally grateful. And I release this word now back into the law, which always says yes, allowing it to be so. And if any of what I've said resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is. And so it is. And so this is our opportunity to prepare for our gracious giving, for our flow in the circulation of abundance, and we have our statement of abundance, which is on the screen. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I release this visible substance as an outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so on our screen are the ways that you may contribute to the Center for Spiritual Living. And again, as always, I acknowledge everyone for the way that you support this community with your love, with your time, with your talent, with your energy, with your prayers, and with your blessings. And to our virtual community, we thank you again for your presence, and we invite you to come back next week as we continue and conclude our July theme, Pulled by Vision. And the message for next week is Stay. And I thought of a song. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Stayed on spirit. And so we thank you, we love you, we appreciate you, God bless you, and we say good morning to our virtual community at this time.